adult language and discussions. If you're easily offended, do not continue.
We would be honored if you would join us.
How are you feeling? Our latest workups on your condition indicate that all damage has been reversed. Recovery is total. I believe you have been quite fortunate. No further thanks are necessary, Commander, but you are most welcome. It is my function and pleasure as a medical droid to help and heal human beings.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
All right, hello, welcome everyone to Star Wars from the Bacta Tank. This is the Book of Boba Fett edition, and I am Micah Flores, your host. And today we're going to be talking about the Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 2, titled The Tribes of Tatooine. And I'm in studio with David. Hello, Dave.
Hello, everybody.
You have your Star Wars britches on?
Oh, absolutely.
Ready to talk about some Boba Fett?
And some Tusken Raiders, dude.
Yeah.
Because this episode was very interesting.
I think one of my favorite things about the Book of Boba Fett so far is the fact that we're delving into Tusken Raider civilization or society. That's something we have never done, and it's something I've always wanted Star Wars to do. And I never got mad that we didn't, because where do you actually do something like that in the movies we've been given? It's not really designed to give us that type of thing. Plus, do you really want to humanize characters that you're then going to have your lead murder?
Exactly. And then on top of that, the way it's presented too is actually surprisingly good to me.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember, me and you have gone through many shows where we say flashbacks are the death of people.
Yeah.
Flashbacks can be the death of a show. But here, I don't know, for some strange reason it works, because the use of the Bacta tank itself as like the gateway of the flashback seems much more natural to me.
It makes it more palatable.
It makes it more palatable.
Yeah, because flashbacks are absolutely something that we struggle with a lot when we talk about shows of any type on this network. It's never a good thing. In a lot of ways, it's become a writing crutch. When you can't tell a story linearly, well, I'll just explain it in a flashback, because I can't tell you a linear story with solid character development without going back in time and explaining why we did this. It is the biggest hack maneuver that has taken the filmmaking world by storm. It was cool in the 90s when John Woo did it. I mean, it was awesome. It was a nice stylization that really worked for certain pictures. But now it's become a plot crutch.
Yeah.
But you are right with Book of Boba Fett. It does work, and it has everything to do with how they transition from scene to scene, using that Bacta tank as the catalyst for that transition. And then the way we flash back, using the grain within the image and then we slowly fade and it dissolves into a more solid picture.
And it's more understandable, too, because, like, since he's been put into the Bacta tank, we understand that Boba has to heal. And anybody who understands, especially Star Wars fans who are watching this, know about Bacta tanks. It takes time for them to heal. Mm-hmm. So, like, Boba's not at 100% right now. So using this as a dream sequence of him going through healing, and then the part of the healing is also coming through with these memories, these dreams, these visions that mean something to him.
Well, it also helps with characters like Boba Fett, because one thing that would not work is getting Boba Fett to talk about his problems. That would be really bad. Now, I don't mind people talking about their problems if they're regular characters. Like, I believe Djarin later on openly started discussing about his past, and that works for that character. A character like Boba Fett, it wouldn't work. No. It's the same thing they do with Vader in the comics and the books. In order for us to have some type of emotional attachment to the character in the comics and books, they use flashbacks or thoughts images.
Images.
In the invader's mind's eye, essentially. You get the idea that he's having flashbacks and he's remembering something, but they never have him talk about his feelings because that does destroy these types of characters.
Well, as crazy as it sounds, when I watched this, and then I watched it a couple times, I know that they're supposed to go with a Western motif for Book of Boba Fett, similar to what they did in Mandalorian, but as strange as it sounds, the way the flashbacks use, it's very reminiscent to For a Few Dollars More, where they did the flashbacks in there where it's like very subtle. It's all of a sudden when you see in A Few Dollars More, when you see the picture of the girl that basically, I forgot our favorite villain in the Dollar trilogy is that Indio? I think it's Indio.
I believe so, yeah.
And Indio's going through his flashbacks where he's thinking about like his past transgressions. It's very similar feel to that within Book of Boba Fett. Boba's going through these past transgressions. You know, what do these moments that he's thinking about mean to him?
Well, and that's why these flashbacks work and they're so telling, because you get this idea that he is going through trauma psychologically, which is something I thought we'd never deal with when it comes to Boba Fett. And again, if he voices this trauma,
it would take away.
It would diminish not just the episode or the show, it would diminish him as a character. So the way they're showing this trauma and the fact that he does struggle with things from his past, they're using those images of his father and the images of him as a child. Those memories are very telling. And so far, I do absolutely like what they're doing with those.
Yeah.
It says a lot in a very short amount of time. And speaking of short amount of time, how odd that this episode was almost a full hour, but the pilot was only 28 minutes.
Yes.
So strange. I don't understand, David, the writing strategy on this show. It seems to be like whatever the fuck. Like, 23 minutes. This episode, next episode will be 67 minutes.
It goes back to like the one thing that me and you were very critical about Mandalorian, where there jumps.
There's no structure.
There's no structure to it.
And that's on. I mean, I like this episode. I have kind of shrugged and said, you know what, it is what it is. This is the style of writing they're doing. But it does, if you really analyze the mechanics of the writing for this episode, it's not super stellar. I mean, the content is super stellar, but the writing, the way it's being executed, isn't necessarily super great. I mean, there's a lot of back and forth in this episode, you know, as Boba Fett tries to find out who hired the assassins to take him out. And then we think we know, and then they give us another direction to go down. And it feels just like they're bouncing back and forth between different ideas. But the writer, Jon Favreau, feels like he's writing a mystery.
Yes.
But he's not. He's just bouncing around and not revealing certain key elements involved with the narrative. And I feel like that bouncing around is because he gave himself 58 minutes. Now imagine if he gave himself 30 minutes to deliver this exact same story. Probably would have been a lot tighter.
Yes.
And a lot less disjointed feeling.
Yeah.
So they've got, and I keep talking about this, Dave. I said this all throughout Mandalorian Season 2, and it looks like I'm going to say it again. And I'm not hating on the show. I'm enjoying the show, but I will say my opinion when it comes to the writing. They've got to stick to traditional television writing. Otherwise, you get things that feel off.
Yeah, because like, especially in this episode, it's not, for me, it's not a detriment because the moments within the Boba Fett episode in chapter 2 just work. You know, like you could have cut out the tiny lizard scene where he takes the lizard into his brain and then he goes on his spirit walk.
But I think you could have done that still with a limited time. I feel like there's a lot of meandering and bouncing back and forth when they don't need to. Like the whole thing, because I do agree with you, that scene was great. I would not want to get rid of that thing. That scene was great.
But you could easily see like, okay, if we gave them a set time frame, that scene could easily be cut.
Right, because we go to the Ithorian. Wait, Ithorian? Is how you say that name? The alien, the mayor. Is it Ithorian?
Ithorian.
Ithorians. You go to the Ithorian mayor, which was a great scene.
Yes.
And I love that they're using that species because we've never had an opportunity to actually learn much about that particular species when it comes to the live action side of Star Wars. Comic books, absolutely, we've had a lot, but never live action. So I do like that. But then you have Fett going to see the casino owner.
Yes.
Then she tells him, well, it's the Hutts. Then we get the scene with the Hutts.
Which, dude, I got so goddamn giddy.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong. It's great. It just feels a little disjointed.
It feels a little disjointed.
But you are right. The episode had a lot of finger pointing between the group of people Fett and Shand were investigating, which helped pose, bigger questions. And there were definitely some bigger implications as to who is trying to take out Fett. And as it turns out, it ends up being the twins.
The twins.
The Jabba's cousins.
Oh, God, dude.
Is that who they are, correct?
Yeah, the cousins of Jabba. And then on top of that, we finally got a comic book character, but it wasn't a comic book character that we were expecting.
How dare you, David, jump ahead on
I'm
something
sorry.
so great.
I was so giddy, Mike. You have no idea.
I wanted to be the one.
I was like, I was cracking up because I literally jumped out of my seat when I saw.
Yeah.
Can I say his name?
Oh yeah, go for it.
Black Chrysanthemum.
Yeah.
and like my wife was sitting next to me going, why are you like dancing right there? And I'm like going at this moment because you don't understand.
Yeah.
I've read so many comics of him.
I felt like that meme, of DiCaprio from Once Upon a Time
when he's pointing?
in Hollywood. Because that's what I did. I was like, and I had wine in my hand. I was drinking wine. So I looked just like that meme, and I'm pointing because my son was next to me. He's all, "What are you doing?" Like, that's Black Chrysanthemum.
It's Black Chrysanthemum.
He's all, "Who's that?" I'm like, only the greatest new character of the Disney era of Star Wars of all time.
Yeah.
Well, him and Afra,
Afra.
that's so. We're gonna wait until a few episodes go by, but I'm gonna offer up some reading material, some
reading material.
Yeah, some must-read material that introduces Black Chrysanthemum. He is a fantastic character, and if someone said, "Michael, do you want Black Chrysanthemum to show up in Boba Fett?" I'd say no, please don't, because I wouldn't want him to be ruined. I would want him to be done right. And he is just a beast of a Wookiee.
Oh, yeah.
A murdering, not a sociopath, but he doesn't hold on to any
honor.
He doesn't have any moral qualms killing
that's
people.
more it is. Like he has his ethics
Yeah.
are much more different than say like a character like Chewbacca.
Right. Chewie lives in society. He interacts with people. He's a rebel soldier. He fights for the good side. Black Chrysanthemum is a beast.
Yes. He's a gladiator. That's
Yes.
the beautiful thing is like I kept expecting, if Fett were to fight Black Chrysanthemum, I'm sorry, Fett's going to lose.
Well, okay, so that's why I got really giddy, because Boba Fett just nodded at him like he knew who he was.
Yes.
And it may confuse some Star Wars fans out there who haven't read the comic books, but in canon comics, it is a part of the story. They know each other from Darth Vader #1.
Yep.
The comic series that came out in 2015, which was an amazing run of Star Wars comics. Darth Vader #1, where Darth Vader hires Black Chrysanthemum and Boba Fett. And he basically pits them together and say, whoever gets the job done first, wins the day, essentially. It was such a great episode. In fact, there's a scar, David, that Black Chrysanthemum has across his eye. I couldn't tell if the live action version had the scar, but in the comic books, he has a giant slash across his eyes.
Yes.
His left or right eye. And the cool thing about that is Obi-Wan gave him that scar.
Gave him the scar.
So he has been deeply embedded within the mythos of Star Wars starting in 2015. And I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that Dr. Aphra, in my opinion, I think in our opinion, Dr. Aphra and Black Chrysanthemum are two of the best new era Star Wars characters. And, of course, our favorite.
I was about to say.
How come I can't remember his name? Jesus.
Oh my God.
Baylard Valance.
Yes.
Like, those three characters are some of the coolest characters we've ever been given. But in the ways of comics and stories, Baylard Valance is still relatively new, couple years, stories are still being fleshed out. But in the way of fleshing out and story opportunities that these characters have been given, it's Black Chrysanthemum and Dr. Aphra. In fact, they are partners for, I want to say, a good year in Dr. Aphra's comic book run. So that being said, Dave, we get Black Chrysanthemum. We might just get Dr. Aphra.
That's what I mean. It got me so excited because after the episode was over with, I'm like going, they have to bring in more comic book characters now.
Well, now that they're not shying away from it,
Exactly.
Absolutely.
You have to expect the possibilities of Baylard Valance showing up and Aphra showing up, especially Aphra, because, well, actually, correction. Now that I think about it, I would expect Baylard to be seen in Book of Boba Fett. Probably not so much as Aphra, because Aphra wouldn't actually want to deal with this. She's the type of person that, is there money involved? Can she actually, get something out of it? Not really. So she's not going to be actually interested in it. Baylard? I mean, Boba's been like seemingly trying to bring in like new people. He needs more people than, I forget. Fennec.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only person he has.
He's going to have to start forming a team. And I'm hoping, based on the thing, I don't want to jump ahead, but based on some of the blogs and the headlines, it seems like Black Chrysanthemum is here to stay.
Oh, God, dude, I hope.
It looks like he is going to be a long-lasting character. And come on, please, just
solely on one basis, Mike. Think about this. Can you imagine if we do get like a legacy character showing up, like a Han Solo or a Chewbacca? We can get the dream match that current Star Wars fans have been rallying for in comics: Chewbacca versus Black Chrysanthemum.
Well, they had that in the comic books, right?
They did,
yeah.
And it ended up in a draw, which pissed off Black Chrysanthemum.
Yeah,
because Chewie is much smaller than him.
Oh yeah. Well, okay. So I will admittedly, we did watch ahead. Now I don't know the future of Black Chrysanthemum necessarily. However, we do know, and the reason why I was nervous when I just watched this episode when it dropped, I'm like, okay, Black Chrysanthemum looks great. But is Disney really going to go the distance with this character? Because this character, as we had said, has no qualms with hurting and killing people. Yes. And I will say, without giving any spoilers, if people are listening and watching at the same time, they do not disappoint.
They don't.
This is the first character, in my opinion, of the new era that has been brought into canon officially, whether it be from comics or Clone Wars, that I feel like the live action version is 100% spot on. They adapted him perfectly.
Yeah, and dude, I like the fact that I believe they are sticking with the old technology when it comes to portraying Wookiees in Star Wars, which is suits.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful suit.
We don't want him CGI'd. Imagine if they did that.
I don't think it would work, but think about it too.
Revenge of the Sith, your Wookiees, please.
Well, think about it also. Think about it like this. I didn't think that they could pull off Black Chrysanthemum because of how immense he is.
Yeah.
I mean, he's gigantic. He's supposed to be twice the size of Chewbacca, and you could tell that he's that big because of how he stands next to the twins.
Yeah.
And dude, the effects in this episode, I was so happy. Like, the CGI didn't actually look bad. The CGI on the twins was really compelling.
Was that CGI?
I want to say it was because it looked like it was partly CGI.
Huh. Well, now I didn't have a chance to dig up that information. Typically I would, but even if it is CGI, let's say, I am so glad that we're going back to the original Hutt look.
Yes.
because I love Lucas. Everyone knows that. And I love the prequels. It's, in my opinion, I enjoy the prequels more than the original series. I know that might be blasphemy in some circles, but I love the prequels. But what he did with the Hutts, or with Jabba specifically, like, how do you go from such an imposing figure in Return of the Jedi to this
sleeping guy during a race?
Yeah, and he just doesn't look right. Doesn't
No.
look imposing. He looks like a little bug, like a little tiny slug. Is what
Yeah.
he looks like. He doesn't look immense.
These guys look immense.
And that's why I'm glad they brought back the original Hutt look without that CGI funk that just made them look weak. It didn't make them look immense and powerful. These are crime lords.
Yes.
They need to instill some type of fear or discomfort.
Intimidation. Almost.
Intimidation. And that's exactly what they did with these two twins. Now, this is the first time we've ever seen the twins. I was unsure because they seemed rather familiar to me. But no, their first appearance was in this episode, Chapter 2 of the Book of Boba Fett. We've never seen them before.
But the concept of the twins, though, isn't foreign to Star Wars because Jabba, the Hutts themselves they're many.
Yeah.
It's like a giant family. It's a crime family. And Jabba was only one person. So it was cool seeing two different Hutts from the same family.
Yeah.
And
that wasn't saying, Jabba.
Exactly. I was going to bring that up. I was so
What
happy
was the
they
name of the
weren't
gay
goofy.
Hutt from the Clone Wars movie?
What wasn't it? His nephew?
Let me see. Let me Google it because I think most Star Wars fans know. Like, I love the Clone Wars cartoon, but that first movie
with
first
that
movie
Hutt.
was good, but that Hutt they introduced in that thing almost destroyed it for me.
I think they even killed that Hutt during Clone Wars.
because he was gay, right? That's what they were
yeah.
trying to do.
But going back to like what you were talking about, the intimidation.
Zero the Hutt.
Now compare
So bad.
Zero to essentially these are it's his aunt and uncle.
Mm-hmm.
His aunt and uncle are scary people. I mean, the one male Hutt, when he says "sleep lightly, bounty hunter," you really know that what he's telling Boba is, "You better sleep lightly because I'm coming to kill you." And then he just walks, and then he just has people drag him away on his plinth, which is just a boss maneuver, dude.
Okay, so Zero the Hutt was Jabba's uncle.
Was it the uncle or nephew?
No, it was an uncle, which means he might be the father of the twins. Because the twins are cousins, right?
Yeah, the twins are cousins.
So Zero the Hutt might actually be the father of the twins.
Oh my God, please tell me the twins killed
So
Zero.
he's not gay after all. Unless he,
Life found a way, Mike.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so this episode, despite its shaky script, it did deliver a lot of cool things.
Cool
And
things.
David, I will always look at the script. Listen, writing is very important to me for a TV show. But just to be clear, the Star Wars movies aren't written super great either. There may be at times there are A moments, but for the most part, I'd say on average, the episodes when you break down the movies are probably like B's, maybe B- at times. If you speak to some people, they may even say a C+. But what really makes Star Wars so magical is the world of Star Wars.
Yeah.
The cosmology of Star Wars, the characters, the magic of Star Wars, if you will. And that's what this episode brought to the table and why it was such a strong installment in the Star Wars TV franchise.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because it's showing. Do you realize Book of Boba Fett's proving to be the one series out of all the Star Wars series that makes everything outside of the TV, books and comics, relevant?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Mandalorian did a lot in its second season. First season, they were a little more careful with certain things.
Yeah, but in second season, they were still careful. Here in Book of Boba, it seems like Favreau and Rodriguez are just like, you know what? Fuck it. We're going to throw everything we want at this.
Yeah. I like, for example, you mentioned this at the beginning of the show, Boba Fett's vision quest.
Oh, yeah.
And his subsequent acceptance into the Tusken
Raiders
clan, if you will. I really like that whole bit. Sometimes things like that don't really work well. There were moments in The Mandalorian where they tried to draw those parallels to the classic westerns, and it didn't quite work at times for me. Whereas scenes like this, where you have Fett with the indigenous folk and he's learning from them,
and he's teaching them because
he's teaching them, and he's teaching them. He's being taught by them as well. You have that Native American metaphor, and then you have the samurai film as well, where you have Fett building his weapon.
Yes.
Man, it was so good. It was
so good.
Such a great moment in the episode.
And I'm sorry, that sequence with the train and the pikes, that was great.
Dude, the Pike Syndicate
The
being
Pike
introduced.
Syndicate?
Yeah. I mean, that's fantastic. And the fact that they own a train that they then hijack, that's how you give us those displaced Western
Yes.
semantics. That's how you do it. And it was so fun to see, them capitalize on that classic train heist from the Westerns of old.
And dude, I was cracking up because like so the Pikes, they don't even ask any questions. They're on the train, and anything that comes near the train, sand people, they just blast them. No questions asked. There's no warning. There's no, hey, get away from our train. No, they straight just slaughter them.
Yeah. And then Fett teaches the Tuscans to drive speeders.
Swoop bikes, yep.
Yeah. So it's definitely
It was comical. It was actually legitimately comical.
comical and intriguing. And we have our official meme that has gone viral for Boba Fett. The Ride It Like a Bantha has taken over the internet. Have you seen those memes pop up everywhere?
Yeah.
Like a Bantha has been substituted in almost every single Star Wars meme we've seen in the past has now been replaced with Fett simply saying, "Ride it like a bantha."
Ride it like a bantha.
Let me see if I can find one of them, because one of them is so great. Let me see. There was one with Anakin Skywalker that was fantastic. Did you see that one?
Yes, that one. I remember.
Or Anakin's all like, they're, what did he say? They're animals, so I slaughtered them like a bantha.
So I slaughtered them like a bantha.
It's so stupid. I can't find them, but they're all over the place.
Oh my god, dude, yeah. Especially like Tamora Morrison
No, hold on.
is
Yes, like a bantha.
like a bantha.
Like a bantha. Maybe not.
Dude,
Like a bantha.
this has to be a
Okay, who
thing
wants to
for
go
us.
first?
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
I love the internet sometimes. I hate the internet mostly, but then there's times like this where they take something so unexpected and make it into like this giant internet phenom.
Yes. And I give a lot of props to, as I was saying, Tamora Morrison, because that whole scene.
Tamora Morrison having a good time.
Exactly.
That's the vibe we're getting from the memes surrounding the Book of Boba Fett and the release of episode 2.
Oh, they have him walk. They have him also dancing with doing the thing, right? Like a bantha.
Ride it like a
they
bantha.
have him superimposed now with Bully McGuire.
Yes.
You know,
I actually have that one in front of me. It's like so amazing.
fucking loved it. See, this is when the internet's great. Well, enough with the politics and the contentious behavior on social media. Give us more things like this. This is gold.
And honestly, dude, I mean, like, it legitimately looks like Tamora Morrison's having a fun time portraying this character.
Of course he is. Do you think he ever thought in his wildest dreams that he would be coming back 20 plus years later to play an iconic character like Boba Fett?
Well, dude, what has me really excited too is like, I know in interviews, Tamora Morrison has stated he wants to bring other clones back and reprise them. And automatically, every single
Rex,
Clone
right?
Wars, yeah, everyone's like going, hell yeah, we want to see Tamora Morrison portray Rex.
We know it's going to happen. Of course. If we have Ahsoka coming out, you can't leave out Rex,
You can't
especially
leave out
now
Rex.
that Tamora Morrison is back.
But dude, how different is that going to be though? I'm like curious if Tamora Morrison could pull it off because Boba and Rex are complete opposites.
Yeah, but he can do it. Tamora Morrison, I've seen him in other things as well. He's a pretty damn good actor.
Oh, he's an amazing actor.
Yeah. Okay, Dave. Well, this does bring us to the end of our discussion for today. I enjoyed the episode. I mean, there's a few negatives, as I said.
There's some.
I'm confused about certain things about Fett. Suddenly, he's now fighting for injustices. That's weird, but that's also my own, as we discussed last episode, that's my own Boba Fett hang-up.
Yes.
I have an idea of who Boba Fett is based on the expanded universe, and that stuff is not canon, and it technically never was. So there are moments that frustrate me only because of the idea I had in my head.
And honestly, dude, as long as they explain it, we're fine.
Yeah.
We'll be fine. I think, yes, we've watched ahead, but I do believe that they will explain Boba Fett's current mindscape. Well, why is he doing this stuff? They have to.
Yeah. So, David, what's your score?
My score on this one is actually surprising. It's relatively high. I gave this one a 95.
Oh, Jesus.
I really enjoyed it. Even though, like what you said, if you look at the bones of the script, it's very simplistic. And yes, there are little problems here and there, but because of how they jam-packed all these moments that just stick to you,
There's way
stick in
more
you,
good than
there's
bad.
way more good than bad.
Yeah.
I mean, we just scratched the surface of like what we liked. We liked the Hutts. We liked we barely touched the Pike Syndicate.
Yeah.
I mean, that brings in a lot of things about Solo.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a lot bigger as well as the story progresses. They're too big of a thing for them not to be a permanent element within the show.
Yeah.
I loved the fighting style that
my God, dude, yeah.
they're giving him. It makes more sense now from The Mandalorian when he fought so differently than we've seen him fight before, and he has the
Yes.
gaffy stick, and now we're seeing why he's adapted that fighting technique because he lived with the Sand People. So I really like it. I'm going to give it an 82%. I felt like it was a strong installment for the Book of Boba Fett, and I'm hoping it just gets better and better from here. I want to thank everyone for listening. Remember, you can find us on Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/RainmanDigital and pledge $5 or more a month, you'll gain access to additional Star Wars discussions that we do every single month. We do need that support. It's really the only way we can continue to do shows every single week and give you guys the deliveries, or I should say the breakdowns of these episodes as well as updates on Star Wars news. So we do need your help. Patreon.com/RainmanDigital. Thank you, David.
Thank you. May the Force be with us.